Hello, welcome to another video on our channel. Here we translate testimonies of people who have had near-death experiences. Today we will learn about the story of Pauline Glamachak. She says she died and met her ancestors. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. Activate the notification bell to be notified of each new video. Now let's listen to Pauline's testimony. Hello, my name is Pauline Glamachak, and in 1977, when I was 11 years old, I had a near-death experience. This happened in the Macedonian mountain ranges during a picnic with some friends. While I was running down a hill, chasing my friends, I ended up tripping over a stone. Instead of falling forward and following the momentum, I threw myself backward and apparently hit my head on a rock, anticipating that I would fall. I closed my eyes tightly, but I didn't feel any pain. Then, I opened my eyes and found myself in darkness. Soon after, I realized I was out of my body, floating and being carried through the clouds. Moreover, it felt like I had taken off a very heavy coat, as I felt I had shed layers of anxiety and worry. At that moment, I felt extremely free and happy, briefly glanced at my body, but wasn't very interested in it. Then I looked around and absorbed the beautiful view of the Macedonian ranges. It's a particularly stunning and spiritual place in southeastern Australia, in Victoria. There I was, floating above my body, which was getting smaller and smaller, without paying much attention to it. Suddenly, I was enveloped by a blackout when I collided with the clouds. As I passed through them, I felt a sensation of cold and apprehension, emerged from the clouds, and saw a variety of clouds that looked like a cloud scene, felt cold, and immediately wondered how far I would go and what would happen. I looked up, and there was only space. I thought, what will happen if I keep floating in space? It seemed that as soon as I thought about it, a black hole appeared above me. I would describe it as a portal, but once inside it, it was definitely a tunnel. I traveled quickly through this tunnel, so fast that the stars seemed to pass by and the speed created only a gray. The stars were no longer visible, so I felt I was traveling very, very far. As I worried about how far I would go and how long I would stay in this tunnel, I looked up again and saw a point of light. Soon, this light began to spread through the tunnel, permeating everything. As soon as I felt that light, I immediately had the sensation of having been there before. A calm took over me, growing until I was completely immersed in the light. This light had energy that was not just visual, it was a golden pattern. It also had qualities of feeling and emotion, a love I had never experienced on Earth. It was a very welcoming love. It's hard to explain this feeling of security, something that is certainly not achievable here on Earth. There was an incredible sense of protection, and this light knew me and loved me, answering all the questions I had. As I got used to the enchantment and security I felt in that light, I looked around and below me. There was a group of people looking up with anticipation. Then slowly I approached them. They greeted me, and I realized they were my ancestors. Now, at 11 years old, I had only lost one grandfather until then, and that happened when I was 3 years old. So I didn't recognize them by name, but I knew they were my family, and they were very happy to see me, as if we knew each other in another life. I was delighted with the beautiful and incredible reception I received from them. While this was happening, I began to observe the environment around me. I saw in front of me a large arch and a wall with a wooden door. I could see beyond the wall, with a view of the beautiful rolling hills, and children playing in a scene of supernatural beauty. I was amazed and thought to myself, wow, this is amazing. I'm so happy to have arrived here. I realized what I thought was the sun, and when I looked at it, I noticed that the aura around it was different. They weren't the usual yellow, but an intense gold, almost like golden mercury. As I got closer, I could see a white center in the aura. As I got even closer, I realized that the white center was a silhouette. When the figure approached, I could clearly see that the white center had a figure emerging from it. It was a man in a white robe, emanating incredible energy. His stature was majestic, and he was inwardly beautiful. I was completely impressed with him, and internally thought, could it be Jesus? Is he really real? When I realized it was Jesus, I exclaimed, he is really real. As soon as I said that, he smiled at me. That laughter was not mocking, but rather of delight. Filled with a delightful emotion, he called me to come closer, and used a name that was not mine, but the name he had for me. By pronouncing that name, an entire story unfolded, revealing the history of my ancestors linked to that name. I understood that we belonged to his tribe, that I was his. It was a huge revelation, and I found myself before him, crying copiously. When the tears subsided and I managed to say a few things to him, I looked up and saw his feet and the sandal he was wearing. I noticed there was a golden hole on top of his foot, a crucifixion hole. The reality of the crucifixion hit me immediately. I was instantly transported to the scene, looking at that hole. It's hard to describe, as it happened in an instant. I was immediately at the level of the stones, seeing the blood and water flowing over them. Looking up, I saw a mutilated figure and realized it was him. He was completely disfigured and unrecognizable, with all his dignity stolen. The gravity of that scene impressed me deeply. It was beyond imagination and unimaginably unbearable. But as soon as I said that and felt a deep compassion, he immediately said no. In that expression, I was blinded by his glorious light, a golden light. I found myself above the clouds, being carried by him over Jerusalem, Israel, and its arid hills, like a lunar landscape totally different from anything I had ever seen. I had never dreamed of flying, so this flying experience immediately erased what I had seen before, because it was so intense. He placed me next to a woman who was on a platform above a crowd. She was an older woman, with her face covered by black hair. Her skin was aged, probably due to sun exposure. While he led me, I absorbed all the details of her life. She had worked in the fields, leading a hard life, and I could tell by her hands. When I felt her sadness, I recognized that I had been taken to stand beside his mother. I realized that he showed me that, yes, he no longer felt pain, but he was still hurt. He had hurt his mother, or maybe it was the other way around, the crucifixion that hurt him. And that was such a great revelation, the revelations he gave me about his nature when I was with him. He told me it was his glory to die for the world, that he died for the whole world. And I, being a Catholic woman, said, the whole world did not receive these sacraments. And he laughed, But he imbued in me the importance of having compassion for all of God's living creation, of having respect and honor for animals. Yes, it was a very deep and surprising message, this instruction about love and compassion. Then he took me to sit on a large black stone, and he was on my right side. I was on his left side. I remember looking at my knees, swinging on the edge of this rock, looking at the space, and the money was near his knees. I remember thinking, I just want to be here with you forever. Below us, there was a nebula forming, and I was taken by this longing to be with him. Feeling what he felt, he said, "Look here, my daughter," and signed with his hand in front of us. As he signed with his hand, a book appeared in the traces of energy from his hand. This book tilted towards us, and there was something written on the first page, but I can't remember what it was. It was like those old movies and slides, in high speed, and I had empathy and got involved with every character in it, I didn't recognize it was my life, that I didn't recognize my parents. That's because everyone looked so beautiful, so lovely. And now I understand that he was showing me how he sees us, that I was looking through spiritual eyes, and he was just showing the most beautiful moments. Until we got to this discussion between two girls, and I recognized the discussion. So I realized it was the review of my life, that I would hurt that girl who later became my godmother when I made my confirmation sacrament, when I was practicing and Catholic. Yes, I heard and felt her pain. And I was mortified because I felt intensely. And I thought, oh, everything wrong. I didn't understand, and I told him, I don't know what life is, tell me, if I can't defend myself, I really don't know how to live, and it's really a hard word out there, And now I realize that he just appeared to me and told me to have compassion for the people who hated him. And here I was, telling him that he didn't know, but he told me that life is about love. And I said, yes, but it doesn't work like that. It's not like that. And then he told me, your life will be about what you focus on. That's what creates your life, your focus, what you look at, what you imagine, that's what you create. And I was still involved with what had just happened. I think it didn't sink in, but I kind of had mundane imaginations and found the information interesting, but still didn't want to be separated from him and made that clear to him. He simply told me, I will never leave you. You will never be helpless from me. And still wasn't, but I just wanted to stay there with him. Then he showed me a holographic image of a handsome young man, and I understood that this would be in my future, in my life. Before we continue, just one request. Please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us keep going. Before continuing, just one request. Subscribe to the channel. This helps us a lot to continue. I thought it was my husband, but as time went by, I recognized my son. He showed me his son, my grandson. When I asked if that was my husband, he didn't share any information, just remained silent. Then he showed me some other scenes, and I said it looked like a wonderful life. But I still hadn't decided to go back. He told me yes, that was it. But there was a flash of sadness. And when there was the sad expression, I also realized that I would disappoint if I didn't return, or that some disappointment had happened. So I immediately agreed, and as soon as I agreed in my heart, he gently pushed me back, and I returned to consciousness, still semi-conscious, with a throbbing headache and a heavy body. My dog climbed up and started licking my right temple. I noticed a fluid coming out of my right ear, a cerebrospinal fluid, but I didn't recognize anyone except the first words I said. Jesus is real. Jesus is real. You have to believe me. Jesus is real. Anyway, I was confronted with the logic of someone I didn't know. Oh, you were only gone for a few minutes, the person said. When telling my story, it didn't make sense to me because it felt like I had been there for hours. Anyway, my parents took me to the nearest doctor and asked me to tell him about my experience. When I finished, he simply looked at them and said that this was called confabulation, the result of a head injury, and that this is how things happen when there is brain damage. He instructed my parents to keep an eye on me and take me to the emergency room if necessary. So I knew they didn't believe I compartmentalized the experience and thought they doubted my perceptions before 45, until I had another near-death experience on the operating table in 2015. In front of negative entities that tried to take me with them. When I mentioned that I was waiting for Jesus Christ, I simply fell backward, realizing it was a near-death experience. I fell into darkness, but when I woke up, I could see everyone with those spiritual eyes that Jesus had shown me in my life review. From there, I started researching and learning more about near-death experiences. I became a counselor and now support people to overcome trauma and integrate their near-death experiences, as there is often trauma involved in this experience, especially in people who have gone through many traumas in their lives. I consider this a gift from God, and my life has really changed since then. This experience became the cornerstone of my life and enriched it in indescribable ways, opened a new spiritual dimension, and certainly helps our soul to face life's challenges. I encourage anyone who has had a near-death experience to integrate it, as it has become the central experience of my life. Thank you for watching and for taking your time with this. I hope my testimony has blessed you. And then, what did you think of this incredible story? Leave your opinions in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let's bring hope to more people that there is life beyond what the eyes can see.